Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So in today's video we're going to be making 5 really easy cards using this gorgeous collection from Craft Consortium called Gardener's Delight. I purchased it a while back. I've made a memory album or photo album with it, and I really wanted to dig it out and actually do some card making with it today. So it's just going to be really easy cards using up some of this pattern paper and some of the embellishments. And yeah, it's a really gorgeous collection. Craft Consortium papers are really pretty. There's just something lovely about all the designs. And I really love how all the elements coordinate really well together. So I've got the plain papers that go with the pattern papers as well. As you can see, I don't really have many of those left. It also came with some ribbon as well that coordinated with the collection. So yeah, let's get into some card making. So all the cards that I'm making today are using 5x5 card blanks. I've got quite a few in my stash at the moment and I really want to start using some of them up. So I've already gone ahead and cut a piece 4 3/4 squared and then 4 1/2 squared in the pattern paper, and we're just going to mat and layer those up. I'm going to use some of the ribbon for this one, and I've also got this string in my stash that I'm going to use as well because I just think it coordinated really nicely, and I really wanted to use one of these little cute carrot charms, and of course the actual ribbon that comes with the collection is a bit too thick to attach those on. So I'm just kind of working out my placement here, what I'm going to do, and again I just decide to add the string around the back of that sheet. I tack it in place with some double-sided adhesive tape, and then I'm able to add the charm a bit later on using another piece of the string. So once that's in place, I've added some foam tape to the back of the pattern paper, and once I've removed the release tape, I'm just adding some liquid glue, just so that I've got a little bit of wiggle room when I attach it to the matte layer. Then once that's stuck down, I'm just going to add some glue to the back of that and attach it to my card blank. Once that's stuck down, I kind of decide that I want to add a few more elements to the front of this card, and I bring in the ephemera here, and I'm just kind of working out which piece would suit the card best. I decided to go with these beautiful little snowdrops, and they kind of really coordinated nicely with the pattern paper as well. I'm just adding a little bit of liquid glue to the back of that and tucking it underneath the string so that the charm's over the top of that. And then I'm going to bring in these enamel dots that are part of the collection and just add a couple of those as well for just a little bit of added interest. With all the cards that I'm making today, I'm going to do all the sentiments at the end of the video. So I thought we'd just get the cards made first and then we'll come back in and add the sentiments at the end. Sometimes you can find with enamel dots that the little sticky pad on the back comes off, or the little glue dot, so you can just add a little bit of liquid glue to stick those down. So for the second card, we're going to do exactly the same process. We're going to use a piece of the pattern paper and then a piece of the coordinating coloured cardstock, and all I'm doing is gluing the two down flat together this time, and then I'm going to attach that down to my card base. Once that's stuck down, I then decide for this card I really want the focal point to be the ephemera. So I spend ages playing around with different bits of ephemera, trying to work out exactly where I want my placement to be. I have sped this up and edited some of it out because it took me ages to decide exactly which pieces I wanted to use. I thought I'd try a little bit of string behind the ephemera, and then I decided that it didn't look great either. And so yeah, after many hours of playing around, I decided to just go with the gloves and the watering can. So I used some glue just to attach the gloves down, and then for the watering can I add a layer of foam pads, I remove the backing tape and I add another layer because I really want it to be popped up over the dimension of the gloves that are already layered over each other. And then that is the finished card for the moment, and we're going to come back to it a little bit later on to add a sentiment to it. I added some liquid glue just to make sure it had got a nice firm hold there as well. So for the third card, I'm just going to pick out a piece of pattern paper now. We're going to make a shaker card for this one. So I decided to use this gorgeous piece, and I'm going to use a piece of the coordinating colour cardstock for this one as well. As I go through, I just like to hold the piece against the different colours and just kind of work out which piece I prefer, and I decided to go with the reverse of this sheet and use the slightly darker green. I've got these nesting dies from Hero Arts. These are heart-shaped infinity dies, and I'm just working out the size window I want for my shaker card. And then I'm going to trim the panels down 4 3/4 squared for the plain coloured cardstock and 4 1/2 squared for the patterned piece. And then I've die cut that window out, and now we've got our lovely little shaker window. So I'm just going to add some red line tape all around the edge, and then we can add a piece of acetate over this as well. So once I've attached the acetate over the edge, because I'm just using a scrap piece, I'm then just going to trim it down with my scissors, just so that that sits nicely there. And then I've got this lovely thin foam tape from Alina Crafts, and I've peeled off the release tape already so that it's easier to shape around the window. And I've just kind of attached that all the way around, making sure that where it joins, there's no gap, because you don't want any of those shaker elements escaping. So I'm just adding some foam tape all the way around the edge of that panel now. And then what I'm going to do first is glue the coloured cardstock down to the card blank. And then I'm going to be able to add some sequins onto that panel where they'll fit inside the heart shape on the shaker window. These sequins are really pretty. There's mixes of lilacs, pinks, some white ones, greens, various shades of green actually. Some are clear, some are opaque. So yeah, they're really, really pretty. And then I'm able just to stick the panel over the top of that. To finish this card, I just add a little piece of the ephemera, so I'm going to use this really cute chicken. I'm just going to pop it up on some foam tape, and then I'll pop that card to one side and we'll add a sentiment later on. For the fourth card, I decided to use some of the scraps that I've started accumulating from some of these cards that we've made. So I'm just going to add strips of pattern paper onto strips of the coloured cardstock. These strips I've cut, the plain cardstock is 1 1/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches, and the pattern paper is 1 inch by 4 1/2 inches, and I'm just sticking those down nice and flat. On the card panel, I decide that I'm going to add them onto some foam tape just to pop them up, give the card a little bit of dimension and some extra interest, and I'm just going to use these foam squares to do that. So I'm just removing all of the backing tape and then I'm attaching them down. So they line up really nicely on the card front. Then to decorate this card, I'm going to use the ephemera die set from Funky Fossil Designs. There's a really nice tag shape die, and I'm just going to cut that from some of the coloured cardstock as well. Once I've die cut that, I'm then going to add some string through the tag, some of the brand string that I had in my stash, and then I'm going to pop this card to one side and we'll finish that off a little bit later on. For the final card, we're going to use that die cut heart that we've already got from the shaker window earlier on, and I think that just looks so pretty with all the white space in the background. So I'm just going to add some glue to that and stick that down nice and centrally on the card. And then all I decide to do to finish this card off is add some of these enamel dots. Some of the glue dots had come off the back of them, so I'm just using my tweezers and some glue just to stick those down and put them in place. And so now it's time to add sentiments to all of the cards that we've made today. So here's all the finished cards, and for the first couple of cards I've already got some sentiments that were in my stash. I've got a happy anniversary sentiment that's from Alina Crafts. It was already stamped and heat embossed in gold, so I'm just going to make use of that, and I'm adding some foam tape to the back of it, and then I'm just going to stick that down to the top left hand corner to finish off that shaker card. For the next card, I'm just going to add this really small sentiment that says lots of love, and again I'm just going to pop that up on some foam tape there. For the third card, I decide that I'm going to stamp a sentiment on this card. I've got this gorgeous sentiment stamp set from Justine Hovey. It's just paper collection. It's from the Sunflower collection. It was her very first collection. And it's got this really lovely sentiment that says grow through what you go through. Now I stamp it on a scrap of card because it's a brand new stamp. I haven't used this sentiment before. And then I decide I'm going to stamp it on the pattern paper. But I actually think that it gets a bit lost, and I decide that the test stamp stamped so crisply that I'm able just to use that. So I'm trimming it down on my paper trimmer, and then I'm going to attach that using some foam pads. Just to add a little bit of interest, I use my corner punch on the opposite corners just to give it a little bit of a slightly more interesting shape, and then I'm going to add some foam squares to the back of that and just pop that up on the card. For the fourth card, I decided to just keep this one really, really simple. I've got this sentiment that says with love, and I'm just going to stamp that in some Versafine Clair black ink in the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to keep that card really nice and simple. For the final card with the tag, I'm going to use this Hello Sunshine stamp. It fits perfectly on the tag, so I'm just going to stamp that in some black ink as well. I'm then just going to pop that up on some foam pads just to add a little bit more interest and dimension to the card. And then I decide to finish this card off. I'm going to add one of the pieces of the ephemera. I choose to use the daffodils because I just think they look really, really pretty. And then I'm going to add a few of the enamel dots just to finish. And so that's the 5 cards finished for today. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope that it's given you some inspiration to use up your paper pads and paper collections. And as always, I'll leave all the products that I've used linked in the description box below. I'll also add some close-up photos at the end as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Please don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it and leave me a comment. I really love reading comments that are left for me. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.